This is where I find out where the edge between my introverted side and my extroverted side might be. I'll try not to run away. I'm pleased to be here, pleased to be with my order brothers and sisters, and happy to have a chance to talk a little bit about the United States, the altruistic spirit of the Dharma. We have a very large situation in the United States, a large context. And first landfall, if you will, of Triratna was over 30 years ago. All of the centers in the United States, and probably everywhere really, stand on the backs of incredibly dedicated people who gave literally insane amounts of time and energy to realize an ideal. We're evolving, we're getting a little bit more reasonable, some of us, as places are more settled. But still the giving is heroic, and it's fueled by people wanting to give the Dharma. I'm going to say a few things personally, a little bit more about our centers, and some musings on the cultural context of the United States. The talk is very much my own perspective. I apologize to my countrymen and countrywomen if what I say doesn't quite ring true, but I hope it will. When I first thought about the topic of bringing the Dharma into the world, as it was proposed to me, what arose in me was quite simple. Just have confidence in the Dharma and metta. Live by Dharma Rinpoche's motto, cherish the doctrine, live united, radiate love. What else do we need to do? So it's about certainty in the Dharma, a certainty I've had for a long time, that the Dharma is the best medicine for what ails. And then we give loads of time and energy to making that Dharma visible in whatever way we can. For me, there's certainly been a process and an evolution. Initially, years ago, I had a desire to share my own experience and to rejoice in how the Dharma had helped me. I was trying to channel, or perhaps flash off, some of the energy that I tapped into as my own Dharma practice became effective. Just call it being really enthusiastic, if you like. And there's nothing wrong with that, as Apekshamati has pointed out. If we're not enthusiastic, I think things will go flat. But over the years, my motivation has ripened and shifted. I've become much more interested in others and their particular needs. I hope I've become more nuanced and subtle in the way that I share my certainty about the Dharma and about meditation. It's not just about holding up a banner and saying, "The Dharma saved my life," and proclaiming the Dharma and my delight in it. It's about connecting and responding, being a condition for each other's transformation. Vishvapani reminded us in his talk that the Buddha was exceptionally gifted at establishing rapport. I sense how important rapport is, real connection. We need it to share the Dharma, and actually more than that, real connection with others is a means, a direct means of expressing reality when we are in touch with it. So, my own practice of altruism, or the way that I think about it, is not only how many meetings I've attended, classes I've taught, retreats I've led, or mitras I've listened to, all of which I've done a lot of. It's about developing my heart and mind. I need to strengthen my capacity for metta and compassion so I can more fully take people in. I need to develop greater understanding, wisdom to know what's needed, to discern what is really being asked for. More broadly now, what is the context in which I do my listening, my teaching, and my connecting? Well, I live a mile from the Atlantic Ocean, in the very northeast corner of a very large country. Actually, there's an order member way up in Maine who does live on the easternmost point of the United States, Gunapeta, and he's really in the Atlantic. I'm definitely on the mainland. The Northeast region, as we call it, includes about 5 centers and groups and about 40 or 45 order members. Not too bad. But think about this. That region, as we call it, runs from Maine to New York, from Gunapeta to Vadramati. This is an area comparable to all of Scotland, Britland, and Wales put together. Then, the rest of Triratna activities in the United States take a huge leap across the middle part of the country where there might be a mitra or two and where Harshaprabha sometimes goes to Toronto, just over the border in Canada. But 3,000 miles away is California. And I figure that's about as far away from me as we are right now from Moscow. So how often do you go to Moscow? And the Western region itself is a vast area. The center in San Francisco, California, is a full 3 days drive from the center in Missoula, Montana. I don't know how many miles it is. So in that huge area, which also goes north to Seattle and again to the Canadian border, in that giant area, there are about 30 order members, give or take, and about 4 centers and groups in the whole West. So in the whole center, we only have 2 in the whole country, only 2 large centers, that's San Francisco and Aryaloka. So not only this vast scale and only, 75 or so order members in the whole place, but there are huge differences in our regions. Aryaloka is semi-rural, all the other centers are urban. Each area has its own style, its own microculture, its own accent, all the rest. So at our centers, large and small, what goes on? We, too, are mostly straight-up Triratna centers with courses, study, retreats, preparation for ordination, all these givens of the Triratna way. I'll mention a few other things that happen through some of our centers, just to give you an idea of how we're experimenting and adapting. There's prison work through centers. There's hospice work, educational outreach, visiting schools and church groups, family activities, affinity gatherings for people of color, for lesbians, 12-step groups, and more. Order members offer meditation in various contexts outside of our centers. And in addition, we have resources. A number of places we do have buildings. Aryaloka, you might know, is a pretty big property. And I know San Francisco is a pretty well-established large building. So we extend the hand of fellowship as well. This is another Dharma work, really. And we let other groups share our space. At Aryaloka, we have Lao, or Laotian, Tibetan, and Nichiren Buddhist groups from time to time. At San Francisco, they have a regular meeting of Gay Buddhist Fellowship. So we're not completely isolated from other Buddhists. So there is a lot of experimentation going on. I reflect that as we grow, we need to apply our resources with wisdom and consideration and not just throw energy at a good idea. And also not be pulled by fashion, nor by anxiety about the state of the world, nor by strictly financial matters. With all that we do, some Sangha members do wonder why we're not more directly active in social projects, environmental issues, or aid work. Of course, lots of people are individually involved in those things. And once in a while, there's an initiative that'll run through the Sangha, and people do a few things together. But I suppose that from the order point of view, and probably from center point of view, we want to see our energy focused on the Dharma, not on any attempts to fix samsara. because I think we can get into that. So wisdom, again, is required. So what about cultural conditions? I don't think people are fundamentally different in the United States than anywhere else. But no doubt we do have some American character that colors how we share the Dharma. I'll just share one American trait that probably you'll recognize. Individualism. Yes, it is strong in us. And independence, self-reliance, autonomy, and in a couple of our regions, but only some of our regions, privacy is a very strong characteristic. So, I found it not too surprising that when I spoke to several people, friends, about their expression of altruism, relating to a Dharma center didn't even come up. People are really thinking about their altruistic practice individually. Loads of people, that's an English expression, we don't say that in America. Lots of people relate to the giving aspect of their Dharma life through their work. I know that's not unique to America, but next to our relationship to centers, it might be a little coloring there. So altruism is everywhere. It's not thought of as explicitly doing Dharma work, such as happens at centers, except for some of us who are called to that. So there's something about our relationship to institutions or to collectives and the way that we both throw ourselves into things, but also want to maintain flexibility, autonomy, a little bit of independence from the organization. Belonging is a tricky thing for Americans. This is not true of everyone, but I think it's true for many. Looking at another aspect, what are Americans looking for? What do we seek? Or the only way I can kind of know that is, what do I think I'm meeting when I relate to people at the center? We're surely no different from other people in our major needs, but I'll mention some things that do come up that I think we do meet at Aryaloka, certainly, and in California, as I've talked to some people. I'm going to list these and put them, they may come into a cluster that sounds like something to you. I can't tell because I'm very close to it. It might be an American kind of cluster, and these might all be universal. So people come looking for respite from a busy life, peace, space, spiritual growth, meaning, inspiration, connection, the need to contribute to something, to be part of a community, for kindness and friendship. Actually, people don't know that they're coming for that, but certainly that's what they find and what maybe keeps them coming. People very, very much need a place to bring their questions and to bring their struggle. They need safety, and they need to overcome suffering. That's universal. I'm not sure if anyone actually comes in wanting to connect to reality, which is what we have to offer. But it turns out, lucky for us, that connecting with reality meets all those other needs. People in the United States, as all over the Triratna world, respond to the Sangha. And just to remind ourselves, a Sangha is where we value and support each other's spiritual growth over and above other aspects. This is very different from people, many people's prior religious experience. So in the United States, there is a lot of working through a form of religious conditioning, especially Catholic and conservative Protestant conditioning. So we connect to what is presently real for people, whether it's addiction, pain, life crisis, woundedness from prior conditioning, search for meaning. Our task is to create rapport, to connect in a genuine way, and then open the door to the potential of the Dharma. Our work is also to what is actually needed in the specifics of the moment. Is having a 12-step group centered around the Dharma the right thing to do now? Something we've addressed recently. Again, I like the question, how can we be the cause of each other's awakening? So from these musings, I hope you've gotten a sense of the scale of things in the United States. It's a huge area, only 2 big centers, and several smaller ones, very, very active, I might say. Just because they're small doesn't mean they're not effective. Especially mention my good friend Dharma Shuri, who works in Portland, Maine at Nagaloka. And they have a brother-sister center relationship with Nagaloka in India. So we're Americans, we're very sincere. We're very vital and energetic, very spirited. I think all those things are true, even for introverts. The feeling of being a bit more on our own persists, but it also very well suits our cultural inheritance of self-reliance and independence. So I'm not sure that's really going to change. I'm reminded of our 4th acceptance at ordination that we take, and a phrase from one of the talks on the Women's Convention. We accept this ordination for the benefit of all beings, aspiring to be like the Bodhisattva, who is ready to offer the Dharma in a way that it can be heard, as soon as conditions are appropriate. This is the sensitivity that is very important as we refine our enthusiasm. So I'm sure in the United States we'll have some of you visiting, helping us. We're not inclined to turn anyone away. Please come. Help us put out a welcome mat for anyone who's interested in meeting the Dharma. Thank you.